Hello and welcome back. Uh, Over the past, I guess, 6 months or more now, I've been doing a number of videos talking about the experience of that I've been going through and providing tips as I've gone through learning how to shoot video. And this is one of those videos, and it's kind of a two-parter because I want to talk about two different things. First of all, I want to talk about batteries and lights and batteries in general. And this is brought sort of in a first hand. I give up. I had it. I was shooting, get ready to shoot some stuff last night. I started shooting stuff last night, and halfway through the take, lights started going off. And I won't say they're the best, but I use, some of my lights are these kind of small battery powered LED fixtures. Uh, I don't know if I'd necessarily recommend them, but they're what I'm using at the moment. I'm not particularly thrilled with them. They're not the greatest, but they do work to the extent that they produce light. And they're battery powered, which makes it really handy because it's very convenient to put up on a boom or an arm or something overhead and not have to worry about wires and cables and power supplies and so on and so forth. However, they're battery powered, and battery powered lights eventually the battery dies. And so, one of the things that I've been trying to develop in going into and shooting video is some form of checklist or pre-roll thing. I still don't have a very good solution to it because, as I just said, I got burned last night. I had it hit me twice. One light went out, I replaced the battery, started this take over again. The second light went out, I replaced the battery, and then as I was going to check the camera, noticed that the camera actually, its batteries were basically near dead, and I have more batteries, but after having gone through all of that, I was just so frustrated, and it was getting to be really late, that I threw my hands up and said, that's it, I will do this tomorrow, I will record stuff tomorrow. And so I wanted to talk sort of like public service announcement. Check your batteries. Come up with a strategy for charging and making sure your batteries are charged. Know the run times you get out of batteries and kind of keep tabs on it on your lights if you're not going to recharge them sort of after every shoot. I could say it's critical. It's certainly important to be able to, not to have things die in the middle of a shoot. Especially if you're in front of clients, but even when you're just like doing a vlog or doing a recording that you can afford to stop and restart and edit together or whatnot, it's extremely disruptive. It was extremely disruptive to my thought process and the subsequent takes after the first failure and the second failure. The quality decreased dramatically. I was more worried about where my batteries were. Was my recorder going to turn off? What other things did I have batteries in that the batteries were going to die, etc., that kind of thing. And so, and this is part of that, as I said, pre-roll checklist that I think you need to kind of figure out how to develop. And I've been trying to put one together because there's a number of various elements that kind of you might have to deal with. For example, I have a ceiling fan in here, and the ceiling fan makes noise and buzzes, and so I need to make sure to remember to turn the ceiling fan off before I start rolling. I start up a small portable fan that's fairly quiet, because if I don't have the ceiling fan on, even with LED lights and whatnot, it still gets warm when the air is very stagnant and there's no air circulation. And so having a fan to blow cool air on me as I'm doing, whatever talk, demonstration, whatever I'm recording is, an important thing. remembering to check light levels, remembering to check sound levels. I'm getting to where I religiously check to make sure that I'm recording at the appropriate sound levels and that my exposures and everything is appropriate, even if I've not checked or taken down or moved or adjusted or otherwise done anything to the lighting setup, purely on a basis of making that habitual. It takes a few seconds with a light meter to just click and see that my exposure setting is supposed to be where it is and check on the camera and, go from there. And it's vastly superior to make sure that your audio and your exposure and all that is correct, good, hasn't changed, something hasn't happened that you weren't anticipating, your lighting setup, like maybe a lamp is flaky or turned off or is overheated or something to that effect. It's just really helpful to sort of get into habitual things like that. However, there's still things that I keep missing. Checking the batteries in my battery-powered lights, making sure that they're charged, making sure that I have other spare batteries to swap out if I need to. And even in that sense, for example, these lights use Sony L-series NPF style lights, and I have two different sizes. I think it's the 500s and 700s. They have two different capacities. They get two different run times, and switching a light out that I've got 700 in because the 700 ran down and I need to recharge it, and I put a 500 in, my record time before that light fails or turns off or powers down or however you want to call it is going to be dramatically reduced. I get maybe an hour instead of 3 or 4 at full power. So there's a lot of utility in developing a checklist, and I wish I could offer a great, if you've got an iPad, use this or do that or set this up in this program or set up reminders or something like that. But the simple reality is I have not found a good bullet list of all the things I need to check or that need to be checked, and that I could put in a tablet or on my phone or something like that, to where I can just hit a button and have it done. So yeah, check your batteries before, make sure your batteries are charged, and try to put together a checklist, I think, of some sort. It's something that you consistently do. And even if it's not a paper or an electronic checklist, a mental checklist, and get in the habit of following it so that you don't run into these unexpected situations or these problematic situations where all of a sudden, you don't have a light, or a light goes out in the middle of recording, because that's extremely disruptive, even if you're not in front of clients, even if you're just doing it for yourself. The second part of this is a few weeks back, or a few months back now, maybe a couple episodes of these ago, I was talking about workflow, and I was talking about one of my great frustrations is trying to find a way to have my camera and my audio and all of this stuff synchronized or compartmentalized in such a way that I know which files belong to which takes, or which video files, sort of associate to which audio files. And I've made a little progress in this in some respects. In digging through my camera, what I had started trying to do with the camera on my camera, I shoot with a Canon 5D Mark IV, but this applies to all Canon cameras that I'm aware of, or at least all of the higher end ones. And there should, I think, be similar capabilities on Nikon and Sony and so on and so forth. But what I started doing was using folders on the camera. The Zoom F6 audio recorder I have has some really nice capabilities with scenes and tracks and all kinds of stuff, false track folders where it'll keep the audio, but it kind of throws it into like a recycle bin so you can go and get it if you need it, and that kind of thing. And that actually, in some respects, is the sort of least problematic of the tools that I'm using right now, because I have the F6 set up to do a scenes that are date named by date. So every day that there's a scene, every day it creates a new scene. And what, if I don't record, obviously it doesn't do that. But every date that I record on, it creates a new scene for that day. And then every time I hit the record button, it creates a new track in that scene. I could certainly get much more technical or complicated with that and have actual like scenes and have change scenes as I'm changing things. But for the moment, I'm just using a date as a scene and so forth. The trick is on the camera. So historically, as a still photographer, I didn't care how my camera organized stuff. I shoot until I get to 10,000 frames. It increments the thing, whatever, puts them in a new folder. I don't care. I import everything into Lightroom, and when I get the stuff in Lightroom automatically renames all of my files using the date and the import number and then the frame number, and what the camera called it becomes completely irrelevant. However, the problem I've run into in shooting these videos is that approach. I'll have a whole bunch of video files on the camera, and I'm looking at them and I'm going like, well, okay, but which one matches to this, and is the times, and did they get the clock right, and maybe the clock on my audio recorder is off because it's like 4 minutes later, and that kind of thing. And so I needed a better way. I was looking for a better way, and the approach that I had stumbled upon or was trying out was to use the folder capabilities in the Canon cameras. So I could create a folder, like it would be EOS 102 or 101 or whatever. EOS 100 is the default folder, or 100 is the default folder, so it could be, or is it EOS 100? Whatever. And so I could create a new folder, I could jump into that folder, and I could record the video to that folder, and then jump back to, say, 100 for stills, or, however I wanted to do it. And I was going through the manual because I've been trying to find a more efficient way to do that. It's kind of kludgy to like go into the menu or go into the quick control screen and hit the menu entry that I have for it there and create a new folder and select the folder and so on and so forth. And I was looking for something a little bit more efficient. And I stumbled across in the file naming section of the settings menu. It's settings menu 1. And it's right under the record folder and card, record function card folder set menu entry. It's right under that, and it's file numbering. And there's 3 modes that are available, which are continuous, auto reset, and manual reset. And so I've always used continuous, because again, as a still photographer, I really don't care what the camera numbers the cards, and it just, that sequentially counts up to 9999, and then starts over in a new folder, or, if the, it starts over in a new folder, and, I just, that's what I did. But I started reading the menu, the options for that, and the one that really struck me is manual reset. And whenever you trip manual reset, the camera will create a new folder, set the file back to 0001 in that folder, and then switch back to whatever mode you previously used. So if you were using continuous, it goes back to continuous. If you were using auto reset, it goes back to auto reset, and so on and so forth. And this neatly solved my issue with trying to manage folders and file numbers or associating things. And now I actually have a reasonably close at least as long as I don't use the false take function too often or I don't use it to sort of throw away mistakes on the audio recorder. I have a way I can manually reset the camera, so it creates a new folder, sets the number to 0 or to 1, and then go to the audio recorder. And if I'm doing that sort of on a daily basis, the audio recorder will be counting up sequentially starting at 1, and the camera will be counting up sequentially starting at 1, and I will have a very coherent and easily followable way to ensure or to figure out which files go together in the when I get to editing. And I mean, obviously, I'm still going to listen to and watch and make sure that that the files that I'm putting together are correct. But this goes a long way towards helping to sort of address that issue. So if you're shooting on Canon and you're doing 2-system audio as I do, and you're looking for a video solution or a solution to sort of organize things, this might be something that you want to kind of consider. Of course, it helps to have an audio recorder like the Zoom F6 that is doing scenes and incrementing tracks in the scene or takes in the scene, and therefore the camera and the audio recorder sort of follow along together in sequence. But it's certainly something that you could do elsewhere or elsewise, as long as you have a way maybe with your audio recorder to sort of reset the count or the file number or file name. So if you stuck around this long, thanks for watching. If you found this video interesting, please smash the like button, and for more content like this on photography techniques or videography techniques, equipment, gear, etc., please consider subscribing to the channel. And I guess, until next time.